Last night, while you were completely unconscious, your brain committed a crime. It fabricated a reality. Not a vague impression, not a feeling. A full, three-dimensional sensory experience, with locations you could navigate, people you recognized or had never met, conversations that felt urgent and real, emotions that were entirely genuine. Your heart rate changed, your eyes moved, your body responded to events that weren't happening, and you believed every second of it. You had no choice. There was no part of your brain available to question it, to notice the inconsistencies, to say, wait, this doesn't make sense, I'm in my bedroom, none of this is real. The part of your mind that does that, the part that evaluates, that checks, that applies logic to experience, was offline, deliberately, as if something had switched it off so the rest of the show could proceed without interruption. Then you woke up, and the world reassembled itself around you. And within 10 minutes, sometimes 5, sometimes less, the dream was gone, not faded, gone, as if it had been written on water. You spent somewhere between 90 minutes and 2 hours inside that fabricated reality last night. You do this every single night of your life. You have done it every night since you were born, and your brain was building the capacity for it before you were born. You will do it every night until you die. And here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. You remember almost none of it. The vast majority of what your brain constructs every night, the people, the places, the things that happened, disappears completely before you're fully awake. You have lived through thousands of hours of fabricated reality, and you have access to almost none of it. It was real enough to change your heart rate, vivid enough to produce genuine terror or genuine joy, and gone before breakfast. Science, after a century of trying, still cannot fully explain why. Not for lack of effort. Dream research has produced some of the most extraordinary findings in the history of neuroscience. We know what the brain looks like during dreams. We know which regions activate and which go quiet. We know the chemical environment that makes dreaming possible. We can watch a dream happening from the outside, in real time, with instruments that measure the electrical activity of millions of neurons simultaneously. And we still don't agree on what it's for. But here's what we do know. And it's stranger, and more unsettling, and more revealing about what you actually are, than anything you've been told before. Start with the architecture. When you fall asleep, your brain doesn't simply power down. It cycles through stages: light sleep, deep sleep, and a phase called REM, rapid eye movement. During REM, something extraordinary happens. Your brain becomes more active than it is when you're awake. Not slightly more active. Measurably, dramatically more active in specific regions, while simultaneously going almost completely dark in others. The regions that light up during REM sleep include the amygdala, the brain's threat detection and emotional processing center; the hippocampus, which handles memory; the visual cortex, which processes what you see; the motor cortex, the region responsible for movement. The region that goes dark is the prefrontal cortex. This is critical. The prefrontal cortex is the seat of rational thought, the part of your brain responsible for logic, evaluation, self-awareness, and the ability to distinguish between what's real and what isn't. During REM sleep, it is essentially switched off. This is not an accident. This is a design feature. Your brain deliberately disables your capacity for critical evaluation, the one faculty that would allow you to recognize that what you're experiencing isn't real, and then stages an elaborate simulation using your emotional and sensory systems at full power. The result is an experience that is indistinguishable from reality, because the part of your brain that makes that distinction is no longer running. You don't dream because your mind wanders. You dream because your brain builds a specific neurological state that makes dreaming possible, and then uses that state to do something your waking mind cannot. The first thing it does is process threat. In 2000, Finnish neuroscientist Antti Revonsuo proposed what he called the threat simulation theory of dreaming. His argument was elegant and disturbing in equal measure. Dreams, he observed, are not random. They are overwhelmingly negative. Studies consistently find that roughly 2/3 of all dream content involves some form of threat: being chased, falling, losing something important, failing at something, facing someone, or something dangerous. Positive dreams exist, but they are, statistically, the minority. This is not coincidence. This is the program running. Revonsuo's theory holds that dreaming is an ancient biological simulation system, a nightly rehearsal space in which the brain practices detecting and responding to threats without the cost of encountering them in the real world. Every night, in the safety of sleep, your brain generates a threat scenario and runs you through it. You practice the fear response, you practice escape, you practice losing and failing and being in danger in a controlled environment where the consequences are zero. The ancestors whose brains ran this simulation every night were better prepared for the genuine threats they encountered during the day. The rehearsal mattered. And here is what makes this genuinely strange. The simulation is so convincing that your body responds physically. Your heart rate elevates, your breathing changes. The same stress hormones that would be released in a real threat scenario enter your bloodstream. The fear you feel in a nightmare is not fake. It is chemically identical to the fear you would feel if the thing in your dream were real. Your brain is using real resources, real chemistry, real neurological activation to run a simulation it knows is fictional. Or rather, the part of the brain that knows it's fictional is switched off. So from the inside, it isn't. The second thing dreams do is consolidate memory. But not the way you've been told. The common idea is that sleep helps you remember things, that information you learn before bed gets locked in during the night. This is partially true, but the more interesting finding is about what gets selected for consolidation. During REM sleep, the brain doesn't simply copy the day's experiences into long-term storage, it edits them. It strips the emotional charge from some memories, reducing the intensity of experiences that would otherwise be overwhelming, while strengthening the emotional significance of others. It connects new information to old patterns, finds associations that weren't visible during waking, and generates insights that the linear, sequential, logic-bound waking mind couldn't reach. This is why problems sometimes solve themselves overnight. Why you wake up with an answer you didn't have when you went to sleep. Why certain creative breakthroughs come not from working harder but from walking away and letting the sleeping brain do what the waking brain cannot. The dreaming mind is not a weaker version of the waking mind. It is a different tool, one that operates without the constraints of logic and evaluation, free to make connections that the rational mind would dismiss as too unlikely, too strange, too far from what's known to be worth pursuing. Some of the most significant discoveries in science and art have come from dreams, not metaphorically, literally. The structure of benzene, the melody of yesterday, the periodic table, the sewing machine needle, reported, documented, sourced to the specific moment of dreaming. Your sleeping brain is not resting, it is doing the work your waking brain doesn't know how to do. So the next time you wake from a dream that felt unbearably real, a dream that left you shaking, or grieving, or inexplicably peaceful, or searching for something that doesn't exist, and then watched it dissolve before you could hold on to it. Remember this, your brain built that, deliberately, with full neurological commitment. It staged a reality, populated it with people and places and events, generated the chemistry of genuine emotion, and ran you through an experience that served purposes your waking consciousness will never fully understand. The forgetting is part of the design. The dreams that stay, the ones vivid enough to survive the transition back to waking, are the ones that carried something worth carrying. The rest dissolve because they have done their work. You spent 90 minutes in a place that didn't exist, feeling things that were completely real, watched over by a part of your brain that runs a different program than the one you use during the day. Every single night, you are stranger than you think. More active in sleep than you are in many of your waking hours, more honest in the dark than in the light, because in the dark, the part of your brain that manages your self-image is offline, and what remains is something older, deeper, and less interested in making sense. That's what this channel is. Every week, one thing about being human that seems simple, or familiar, or solved, revealed as something far more extraordinary than you were told.